Good morning. Lashana Tova. And for those of you who do not understand Hebrew, that means Happy New Year. My name is Sheila Sandow, and I use she, her pronouns. I serve this congregation in many ways. Today, that includes the privilege of being worship associate for this morning's service, and also singing in the choir and producing the lyric slides that make it easy for us to sing together. We are in the middle of Judaism's Days of Awe, a sacred 10-day period that began at sunset last Monday with the 2-day observance of Rosh Hashanah. The Hebrew words Rosh Hashanah mean head of the year, the beginning of the new year on the Jewish calendar. The Days of Awe end with the observance of Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, the holiest day of the Jewish calendar. This year, Yom Kippur begins at sunset this coming Wednesday, October 1st, and it ends one day later. For Jews around the world, the Days of Awe are a period of spiritual introspection, calling for reassessing one's actions during the past year, repenting for errors and seeking forgiveness, and renewing the spirit for the coming year. During the Days of Awe, and especially on the Day of Atonement, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. This morning's service will include consideration of these ideas. As we undertake the work of spiritual introspection, individually and collectively, we continue to engage in the process of building belonging, our congregational theme for the month of September. Together, we celebrate Unitarian Universalism being a faith that encourages us to explore and understand the world's great religions. Here is a reading that is particularly appropriate for this morning. It is called Anew and was written by Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt. Here's the thing. The year begins anew, even in the worst of times. The leaves will turn and fall, and then they'll grow again. And sometimes we're afraid, and we can't know what choice to make to keep everyone safe. Uncertainties bear. All we can do is seek out sweetness everywhere we may and work to fix what brokenness we find. The good news is we're not in this alone. We'll help each other hope when light seems dim and lift the sparks that darker days reveal. We'll love each other fiercely. In the end, there is no greater work that we can do. We who survive will help each other heal. Come, let us worship together.
And as the ushers take the offering, a brief introduction before the choir song for this week. As you all know, or as many of you know, every year we do an auction, the All Together Now auction, and one of the items that people can bid on, which I donate, is the opportunity to select a song for the choir to sing. This past auction, Noreen Hevlin from the UU Coastside community donated, won the auction. It was a fierce bidding war, but Noreen came out on top so that she could donate the song "Ours is a Simple Faith," as originally performed by a group called Mustard's Retreat. And we have really taken to the song. We enjoy singing it, and we want to share it with you now. So thank you, Noreen. Here we go.
Heaven is in this place.
Reverend Victoria E. Safford's map of the journey in progress is from her book of meditations called Walking Toward Morning. Here is where I found my voice and chose to be brave. Here's a place where I forgave someone against my better judgment. And I survived that, and unexpectedly, amazingly, I became wiser. Here's where I was once forgiven, was ready for once in my life to receive forgiveness and to be transformed. And I survived that also. I lived to tell the tale. This is the place where I said no, more loudly than I thought I ever could. And everybody stared, but I said no loudly anyway, because I knew it must be said. And those staring settled down into harmless, ineffective grumbling, and over me they had no power anymore. Here's a time, and here's another, when I laid down my fear and walked right on into it, right up to my neck in that roiling water. Here's where cruelty taught me something. And here's where I was first astonished by gratuitous compassion and knew it for the miracle it was, the requirement it is. It was a trembling time. And here, much later, is where I returned the blessing clumsily. It wasn't hard, but I was unaccustomed. It cycled round, and as best I could, I sent it back on out, passed the gift along. This circular motion around and around has no apparent end. Here's a place, a murky puddle, where I have stumbled more than once and fallen. I don't know yet what to learn there. On this site, I was outraged, and the rage sustains me still. It clarifies my seeing. And here's where something caught me. A warm breeze in late winter, bird song in late summer. Here's where I was told that something was wrong with my eyes, that I see the world strangely. And here's where I said, yes, I know. I walk in beauty. Here is where I began to look with my own eyes and listen with my ears and sing my own song, shaky as it is. Here is where, if by surgeon's knife, my heart was opened up, and here, and here, and here, and here. These are the landmarks of conversion.
Beloveds, today we gather in the midst of a sacred season. The high holy days are indeed a time of reflection, forgiveness, atonement, and renewal. And at the heart, these days ask a simple but profound question. To what or to whom do you belong? Do you belong to your past mistakes? Or do you belong to the possibility of forgiveness? Do you belong to your fears or to your courage? Do you belong only to yourself, or do you belong to one another, to the great web of life, to the spirit of love that holds us all? The answer to those questions is yes. The Jewish tradition teaches that before you can ask God for forgiveness, you must first reconcile with the people you have harmed. And this is a remarkable approach. The Jewish tradition says that holiness is not found only in temples or rituals, but in the relationships between neighbors, friends, family, even strangers and opponents. Forgiveness, therefore, is not seen as just a spiritual formality, but it's also a matter of our belonging to one another. We are not asked to be perfect. We are asked to belong with our whole selves, our mistakes and our hopes, our sorrows and our joys, and to belong in each other in a way that helps us to over and over again begin in love. But to really know what belonging is, we must remember that true belonging begins within us. The High Holy Days invite each person to practice Heshbon HaNefesh, which means accounting of the soul. This is kind of it's like a spiritual bookkeeping, if you will, right? We talked about this a little bit earlier in the beginning. Where did I miss the mark this year? Or this week? Or today? What amends must I make? Where do I need to turn back and begin again? This is not easy work. Looking honestly at ourselves is rarely comfortable, but it is sacred work because belonging to ourselves wholly, honestly, and tenderly is the foundation for belonging to others in those very same ways. The truth is, many of us carry shame or regret that keep us from feeling at home in our own hearts. We may think belonging is something we must earn, something we will only deserve once we are perfect. This is false. Belonging is not earned. It is the birthright of every soul. The first step of belonging is not what skills, gifts, or accomplishments you bring to the circle, but remembering simply that we just do belong to each other. That is what holds it. And when we know that we belong, then we can practice forgiving. We can practice forgiving ourselves, saying, yes, I have stumbled, but I am still worthy of love. Yes, I have made mistakes, but I still belong in this circle. And from the healing self, then we can turn outward. Then we turn outward. Rosh Hashanah marks the birthday of the world in Jewish tradition. Yom Kippur, 10 days later, is the Day of Atonement. Between them stretch the days of awe. 10 days for restoring relationships. 10 days to remember that no one exists alone. 10 days to remember and practice belonging to one another. Reverend Victoria Safford's meditation, Map of the Journey in Progress, gives us a glimpse of that work. She names the places where she forgave and was forgiven, where cruelty taught her, where gratitude and compassion astonished her. She describes compassion as a miracle, a trembling time, and she notes how it moves in circles around and around, given and received, belonging and returning. And that is the heart of this community. We hurt, we forgive. We stumble, we restore. Belonging does not erase our conflicts or differences, but it gives us a way to stay together through them. Now, here at UUSM Mateo, we have words that help to guide us in this work. We have a covenant of right relationships, right relations, I think that's what you call it, that remind us of the ways that we practice belonging to one another with these powerful words. And these are the words that we practice here for how we belong to one another here. I think they're aptly to work well beyond our walls to take with us wherever we go. Our covenant says that we cultivate attentive listening, care-filled speaking, a culture of gratitude and compassionate honesty. That we communicate directly to one another, especially in times of conflict. That we trust one another's intentions, even while recognizing that actions matter. Right? I want to pause and remind you all, there's intention and there's impact, right? Our intentions might be good, but our impact might feel hurtful to somebody. And so we have to be aware of both of those things all the time. Our covenant also says that when we are hurt or when we hurt others, we will seek reconnection and forgiveness. And it states that we are responsible for ourselves and accountable to one another. This is what belonging looks like in practice. Belonging. It's not just warm feelings of community. It's a daily choice to listen carefully, to speak honestly, to forgive generously, to seek reconnection when things go wrong. And they will, because they do. In this sense, belonging is a discipline, a spiritual practice. It is how we co-create beloved community, not by accident, but by covenant. The work of belonging does not end with ourselves or even within this congregation. Yom Kippur begins this week on Wednesday and ends on Thursday. At its close, in the final prayer service, the shofar will sound that long, piercing blast that Miriam gave to us earlier. That was the sound of atonement, that was. But that sound symbolizes freedom, freedom from sin, freedom from moving forward from our mistakes, not forgetting them, but making atonement and making amends. It symbolizes a wake-up call for spiritual improvement. That sound reminds us that we belong to the beloved community, to our neighbors, to the oppressed, to the earth itself. Now, the shofar that Miriam shared with us this morning, it's not a part of our UU tradition. We don't have a horn that sounds to mark those things. But what we do have is a beautiful litany of atonement written by the late Reverend Rob Eller Isaacs, who was of Jewish descent but raised Unitarian Universalist. And as a side note, he was my minister in St. Paul at Unity Church Unitarian. I'm an Eller Isaac-ian, nurtured into ministry by Rob and his also late wife, Jan. And we sang this version, we sang the version that's in our hymnals, we sang that earlier this morning. And it's beautiful, but that's not how Rob wrote it in the first place, when he sent it to the powers that be that put together the hymnal with all of the words in the back, because you'll find that Litany of Atonement in the back of our hymnal. That's not how he wrote it. His original response was, I forgive myself, and I forgive you, and we begin again in love. This is a much more personal invitation for you to think about where you have missed the mark, about maybe where others have missed the mark with you. And we're going to use that for our response for our closing litany today. And I've also changed one of the verses slightly. But this is what I want you to think about as you're reciting the words. Really think about the places where you've missed the mark. Again, being honest with yourself is the most important thing that you can do. It's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to say the wrong thing. right? We do that, we're human. But then the next step is to atone for that, to say you're sorry, to make amends if you need to make amends. And think about those who have offered apology to you. Can you offer them forgiveness? This is what atonement is. And finally, we recite together, we begin again in love, because that is what we are invited to do every moment of every day. Will you all please join me for the Litany of Atonement? And I will read each piece and invite you to do the response in bold. For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference.
I forgive myself, and I forgive you, and we begin again in love.
For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible.
I forgive myself, and I forgive you, and we begin again in love.
For each time that our actions, words, or attitudes have caused harm to another.
I forgive myself, and I forgive you, and we begin again in love.
For each time our greed has blinded us to the needs of others.
I forgive myself, and I forgive you, and we begin again in love.
For the selfishness that sets us apart and alone.
I forgive myself, and I forgive you, and we begin again in love.
For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit.
I forgive myself, and I forgive you, and we begin again in love.
For losing sight of our unity.
I forgive myself, and I forgive you, and we begin again in love.
For these and so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness.
I forgive myself, and I forgive you, and we begin again in love.
When we forgive ourselves and others, we set our hearts free. But then when we take it one step further and we begin again in love, we use our actions to make it better. Blessed be and amen.